Hi, it's Terry Murphy with the team from Paris Paradigm. I'm Terry Murphy, and I'd like each one of you to introduce yourself because we have an esteemed group of people here to help you discover new ways to do your real estate business. So let's start with you, Miss Giselle.
Good morning or hello, everyone. My name is Giselle Abadi, and I'm the CTO of and co-founder of Realtina, and very happy to have this group here and discuss real estate practice.
Excellent. And of course, we have the esteemed Saul Klein. Everybody knows he's the father of real estate. He actually invented it. Go ahead, Saul.
Yeah, Saul Klein, CEO of the San Diego MLS. It's great to be here with you guys and spend a little time and get some insight into this concept called the Paris Paradigm and being a negotiator. And it seems to me to be a fascinating subject, so I'm here to learn.
Well, we all are really, and we've got Eileen O'Driscoll, who's actually in the field every day with real people, real agents, and real negotiation. Tell us a little bit about Eileen O'Driscoll.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Eileen O'Driscoll. I'm the broker owner of Century 21 Concept 100 in northern New Jersey. I'm a producing broker, coach and trainer and mentor to agents out in the field. So we're living and breathing this every day. So I'm really excited for this initiative.
And of course, we have to save the best for last. Mr. John Riley, author of The Language of Real Estate, an attorney, but recovering from being an attorney. Just kidding, John. Tell us a little bit about what you do for the real estate industry.
Well, if Saul's the father of real estate, I'm the grandfather of buyer agency. And presently, I'm situated, that behind me is the 4,000-acre ranch where my daughter and son-in-law reside. And I am a recovering attorney, so I'm following the legal aspects of the NAR settlement and all things legally related.
Isn't that great? So we're bringing to you some of the most pivotal people in the real estate industry, both from a local and global perspective. And let's just talk about the negotiator. Which one of you would like to describe a little bit about what this concept is?
I can jump in if you wish.
Thank you.
I think the best way to start with this is compare it a little bit, or differentiate a little bit from the traditional model. As buyers agents up until now, they operated primarily under a model of getting compensated for their services through a portion of or a percentage of the final selling price or closing price of a property. Now, understand within that, there were different options still for buyers. They could work on a flat fee, they could work hourly. There were different options still for them. But post-lawsuit, post-settlement is causing us to look at that model and look at a different approach to buyer agency compensation. And let's face it, no buyer wants to go out there and pay what is a substantial amount of money. And it may be the greatest investment of some buyers' lives in purchasing real estate or purchasing their own home. So they do want to have somebody representing them, somebody that makes sure all the forms are correct, that they've looked at everything and they're able to put their best foot forward. So this is where the role of a buyer agency representation come in. So I know with this group for the last year and a half, 2 years maybe, we have been looking at this concept, which was the brainchild of Ali Attar, which Ali wasn't able to join us today, but we look forward to him being on the future webinars with us. And of course, Giselle. And this concept looks at paying for buyer representation, not on the highest sale price of the house, but rather on how much a buyer can save and the savings that a buyer can come to the closing table with. So this is a whole new concept, different way of looking at it. It requires a complete mind shift or mind change from the way brokers or buyer agents looked at compensation up until now. And it looked at how much they can save a buyer on the sale of their home or the purchase of their home, and they can get paid accordingly on that. Saul, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so for me, a key element is something that we've all had to deal with for years, and that's people saying that those who represent buyers don't truly represent them because, while they might to some degree, they actually are rewarded based on the sale price of the property. And the higher the sale price, the more money the agent working with the buyer makes. And so that's according to some people. Now, we all know that I've never known anybody to blow a deal over, a $10,000 or a $20,000 increase or in the sale price. Nonetheless, what happens is there's no alignment. When the seller gives a listing to a listing broker, then that listing broker gets paid. The higher the sale price, the more the listing broker gets paid. And so the interest of the listing broker and the interest of the seller are aligned. But it doesn't work that way on the buy side. While the person who represents the buyer will get paid, the higher the sale, remember, the buyer wants to get it for as low as possible. And yet the person being compensated, the higher the sale price, the more they're compensated. And so there's this conflict where the best interests of the seller are out, or excuse me, of the buyer are out of alignment with the person that represents the buyer. And so in the Paris paradigm, what has been created here is a way to structure the commission to the person who represents the buyer in such a way that there's an alignment between the buyer and the person representing the buyer. And so if in fact the buyer can get it for a lower fee, the person representing the buyer stands to make more commission. And so to me, that was a big, big piece of this.
Saul, if I may, and Terry, if I may, to all the hardworking buyer agents out there, because they work really, really hard, and honestly, they deserve every penny they make. The buyers agents that are working out there up until now, and those that I know, and many, I would not question their fiduciary to their clients, because in the way buyers agents work, they work mainly by referral. Their business is a repeat business from our business that's referred to them by their client. And if they were deliberately overcharging for their services, they would not, get future business. So being fair to them and those that I know, I can tell that their fiduciary is intact, and they are definitely looking out for the best interest of their client. However, it's the system, and they had to work within the system. So the system was set up that it became a percentage of the ultimate sale price. So this is what Saul is referring to. So with the Paris paradigm and the negotiator, we are breaking through that system and creating a new system wherein the buyer can still have their representation and their agent can get paid.
Yeah, and that really takes, and that is a shift in the industry, as we've all been in the industry for a really, really long time. And Eileen, you said something in our pre-discussion that I think is worth punctuating here, and that is, it's not for every person and it's not for every transaction. Would you agree?
Absolutely, because there's different buyers out there with different needs. And if we can we show a little video of what this concept looks like, so that it can demonstrate what we're doing, and then we can kind of speak further on it afterwards.
And you are right on it, because Miss Giselle is going to share her screen and show us that video.
Yeah, for sure. But before showing the video, I just want to give you a little background of how this idea was born. Maybe I tell this to the audience that I've been active in real estate tech industry for over 15 years, working globally. We have clients from 96 countries. Myself living in Paris, France, and but we have 90% of our focus in North American real estate market, because it's an organized industry, having the MLS systems and everything. So we see that how flourishing the industry is in North America compared to other parts of the world. And the idea of Paris paradigm actually was born in Paris, because we noticed that consumers or buyers here, majority of the buyers, I think 99%, they opt for dual agency model because there is no MLS here. And we thought that we should find a way to encourage them, to entice them to hire a buyer representative. Sometimes, they face problems with dual agency. Of course, there are some rules for protecting them, but it's not enough because, a single agent, for sure, the more the selling price is, they make more money. So they don't see the value in hiring or hiring a representative for themselves. So this model was born to address that in other markets than North America, because the offer of compensation, because there is no MLS and there was no offer of compensation in the system to ensure that that the buyer representation, the buyer agents are getting paid from the transaction or final selling price. So, but now a few months after that, we got into this situation in North America. Then the offer of compensation is now gone from the MLS, and that makes this model perfectly match with the current situation in the US. So that's what we've been working on in the past 1 year, 1.5 years, to actually match this concept with the US market. And everyone in this panel actually contributed to developing that, and making sure that we follow every legal aspect, and to be able to respond to the market. So that is why it is called Paris Paradigm, because it was born in Paris for European market, but now it's a thing in the US as well.
Such a good perspective. Thank you so much for clarifying that, because I think people might go, why Paris? So
yeah, exactly. I get that question often, and I thought that so I'm going to share my screen, and there are a ton of resources on parisparadigm.com, and I encourage you to go. And when you go there is a form, you fill it up, and actually you will be notified when the platform is ready. The platform will be launched in a few weeks, and actually we give you all the tools that you need. There's a different dashboard for buyers, different dashboard for buyer agents, or that we call them negotiators in this platform. So you will have all the tools that you need to be able to do your business in a Paris paradigm model. So the video that we talk about
probably needs some sound. There we go.
Oh, sorry.
I wondered, Giselle, if you checked the sound button down in the corner before sharing.
Oh, yeah. Just a minute, sorry.
And as you're doing that, I just want to touch on, as a buyer's agent and representing the buyer, basically what we're doing is we're negotiating the best price possible for that buyer and the best terms going forward. And I know with all buyer agents, their goal is for their clients to have peace of mind after the transaction closes, that they have negotiated the best price for them, and they were as educated as possible going through that process, and they know they made the right decision for themselves.
And I know that as she's searching for that, John, you would chime in with how that covers issues that could come up later.
Oh, issues that come up where the steering was one that was brought up, by the Department of Justice, and this whole model is based on it's performance based. In other words, the measure of compensation depends upon how well the buyer agent performs, and that's able to be measured, and will then prove and justify the fiduciary obligations that the buyer agent demonstrates. And it's pretty evident to the buyer, because the buyer sees the relevant amount of money that they've saved having a negotiator acting on their behalf.
Well, that makes really good sense. And as an industry, Saul, because you and I have been trainers forever, from a negotiating standpoint, this is really elevating the level of negotiator. Would you agree?
Yeah. So one of the things I would say is, as a real estate broker, I've always been a negotiator. That's what my job is as a real estate broker. But not everybody is as good as everybody else when it comes to negotiations. There's a lot to learn about negotiation, but again, the compensation under the current model is not in, and this is not, again, as Eileen said, saying anything detrimental about people who represent buyers, but it's not tied to and in alignment with the interest of the buyer. And that's a big thing this does. And then part of this program is a network. And then another part of this program is working with people to help them become better negotiators. Because if you think about it, if your compensation is actually tied to the best price you can get for the buyer, you start to look at this through a different lens or a different paradigm, right? A different model. And so I'm anxious to see the video, Giselle.
Yeah, I'm doing that right now. Sorry.
And this is through, Saul, right? An inverse commission compensation. Okay, here we go. The video is coming up. Thank you, Giselle.
Okay, let's see if the voice is fixed.
I'm not hearing anything, Giselle. Is anybody else hearing it?
No.
Nope.
Okay, so
I know before sharing, there's a little button.
Yeah, I did that, but it asked me a password, and I don't know why it doesn't work. Well, I selected that option, so
let me see if I can.
I know, Terry, you were able to get that last night.
Yeah.
See if you can get it again.
See if I can do that for us.
And then we can do it.
I mean, traditionally, real estate people have thought they negotiate. Now, like I said, you can always advance your skill set on that. So let me just share the screen and see if I have opportunity to do that. And there we are. And let's see if we can get this video.
The inverse commission, revolution in real estate compensation. Traditionally, real estate agents are compensated based on the sale price of a property. This model can create a conflict of interest, aligning the agent's financial incentive with higher property prices. Now,
actually, the video is gone from the screen.
Of the agent with those of the buyer. Introducing the inverse commission. Under the inverse commission model, the agent's commission inversely correlates with the property price. The lower the price.
I think, Terry, maybe if you pause it and try to redo this again, it would be helpful to see the video as everybody is listening to it.
Focusing on lower prices.
I'm sorry?
If you could pause it and reshare it again, because we did lose the video.
Oh, we did?
We're just seeing your screen.
Inverse commission.
Oh,
we just
real estate compensation.
Okay, it's back. There you go.
Real estate agents are compensated based.
I'm sorry?
Maybe if you can just restart that.
Okay, let me redo it. I love technology. We can always make sure it doesn't work.
And let's just take a minute to see if any of our attendees, if you have a question, just pop it into the chat and we'll see if we can answer it for you.
So I got Judy here. She's watching this for the first time. Her and I have talked about this. And so the concept is a very interesting concept. And there is a lot to it. And I think the first piece is this idea of the compensation, right? The idea of the inverse commission. And then many details follow. And then, of course, there's an app that goes with it. And that's an interesting piece. And then I see down on the screen, there's a little bot down there in the corner. So what you're looking for right now is lots of questions so that the artificial intelligence can help sort out and figure out what people are asking and then best responses to them. Because it is a different way to look at real estate transactions.
Yeah, and I think it's important to notice, since we're looking at the website, there's inverse commission, then how you specifically apply that to a seller, to the buyer market, and then how it actually literally creates your ability to elevate how you negotiate, which really creates that goes, Saul, as we talk about, from transactional to relational. Because the better job you do for a buyer, ultimately you get great referrals from that, and referrals are what make our business work. So should we try it again?
Absolutely.
The inverse commission, revolutionizing real estate compensation. Traditionally, real estate agents are compensated based on the sale price of a property. This model can create a conflict of interest, aligning the agent's financial incentive with higher property prices. Now, imagine a system that aligns the interests of the agent with those of the buyer. Introducing the inverse commission. Under the inverse commission model, the agent's commission inversely correlates with the property price. The lower the price, the higher the commission. This model motivates agents to find the best deal for the buyer, focusing on lower prices and uncovering any property issues. Buyers benefit from lower property prices and a representative truly working in their best interest. Agents are empowered to act ethically and are rewarded for securing the best terms for their clients. This model creates a more buyer-friendly environment with a focus on fair compensation for the agent. The inverse commission is more than a concept. It's the future of real estate transactions, fostering trust and alignment between buyers and agents. Inverse commission is a part of a revolutionary compensation model for the real estate industry, the Paris paradigm. Join us in embracing the inverse commission, fair, transparent, and aligned with your interests. Visit us, www.negotiator.re and www.realtina.com.
That's excellent. I really like that little part at the very start, where the gentleman is standing and he's imagining, and it says, imagine a system. And that's truly what somebody did, was imagined another system. This does require a mind shift, or looking at compensation or getting compensated with a completely different mind. So once you're in that frame of mind, it's easy to look at this and to follow it.
I wanted to add one point, because we've been working on this for a long time, and we talked to many industry leaders, and someone actually, a CTO of the MLS, basically sent a piece of information to me a year ago when we were just talking about this, that in 1000 Watt, actually, they ran a survey between buyers in the US market, and the question was whether they see the European model relevant, meaning the dual agency, or managing the transaction through one agent only. And the shocking response was that 71% of the buyers, they said that it makes sense to them to deal with one agent. So as you mentioned, the industry is shifting. This was even before omission of the offer of compensation from the MLS. I think the study was done like 2 years before, and you can look it up on 1000watt.com. So I think this mind shift, actually, this model helps with that mind shift, because actually by hiring a negotiator, buyers, they find more financial interest in hiring a representation. Of course, a buyer agent or negotiator can expedite the procedure and bring a lot of value. That's unquestionable. But the shift in the market actually shows that it's the right time to adopt another model, maybe for people who are changing their mind.
So let me put this in a context. So what you have is in the market in the United States is you have major litigation around compensation in the MLS. And so compensation has been taken out of the MLS. So the old way of doing business isn't exactly the same today, because one of the requirements of the NAR proposed settlement is that you have to have a contract with the buyer stipulating how much you're going to get paid or how you're going to get paid before you can even show a property. So that's a major change, and people are struggling with just that piece. How do I get a buyer to sign a contract? And then sellers and buyers, one of the things we're hearing for buyers is buyers might have to pay the commission. And what sellers are hearing is sellers no longer have to pay the commission. And we're also hearing that maybe we're going to have people that are charging less than others. And we're hearing that some people might charge by the hour. And then some people are saying this is the time to introduce a menu of services. And so right now there's lots of turmoil as to where the industry is going to end up. And so that kind of opens up people's minds, we believe, to looking at new ways to be compensated in a real estate transaction, because all the old ways are now kind of being questioned. People have to have new approaches to this. People have to be trained and coached into new ways to talk to buyers and new ways to talk to sellers. What if the seller says, I don't want to pay? What if the buyer says, I don't have the money to pay? How is all of this handled post Sitzer Burnett, post this major NAR settlement? And Paris Paradigm is one method that agents today looking for opportunity might be able to integrate into their practice when they're talking to a buyer, when they're talking about a particular piece of property, even when they're talking to sellers about a different way that they do business. And the way that I would integrate something like this into my business, and I haven't listed and sold real estate since the 90s, but the way I would integrate that into my business, I would say, there are a lot of ways to be compensated. Back in the old days, we got compensated from the seller through the real estate transaction and through the MLS. That's no longer the case. But now I can either charge the buyer directly. I can get a contract with the buyer and charge them directly. I might charge them by the hour and say, look, if you work with me, I'm going to take you out and I'm going to show you property and I'm going to be compensated by the hour based on how much time I spend with you. Or I might say there are different phases to a real estate transaction. I'm going to teach you about it and I'll charge you so much for that. And then I'm going to take you out and show you property. I'm going to charge you so much for that. Then I'm going to write the offer. I'm going to charge you so much for that. And then I'm going to put it into a closing or an escrow and I'm going to charge you so much for that. And right. So that's a menu of services. I can offer you that one. Which would you prefer? And I also have one where I'm compensated based on how much money I save you. Would you like to hear about that one? And that would then allow me to talk about this inverse commission concept and the technology behind it, which you haven't talked about, Giselle, the technology behind it that makes it possible. And maybe people would decide that that's what they're looking for, that type of compensation arrangement, and maybe not, but it differentiates me from my competition. And, some properties, John Riley and I were talking about this the other day, some properties might lend themselves to this method. If you think about, I said properties where the value is more subjective, right? If that's the case, then, it's a $15 million property. What if I could get it for you for $13 million? What's the commission? How much commission would you pay me if I were in fact able to save you? And that's an extreme example, but you get the idea. And those types of valuations where it's more subjective, this kind of fits right in. And there are other examples, but the more I think about this, the more I see that as the market changes, particularly with the technology that Realtina has built, that this really has an opportunity to to kind of change the way we think about representing buyers and being compensated in real estate transactions.
Well, that's excellent. And I do think that this model, it does put the power back in, it gives the buyer, gives them, that power back. With rising prices in with homes in the US, a lot of buyers are feeling beaten up. They're losing out on properties and they're not able to get their family into a home. And so a lot feel that, well, maybe they will give up their representation and work directly with the seller in order to get their family into a home, and ultimately lose out because they haven't had representation, and they may end up with issues after the sale that they didn't realize would happen. So with this model, it actually puts them back in the driver's seat. It allows them to interview the negotiator. It allows them to do as much work as they want themselves, and then negotiate the service themselves, which I really like, because I do think this is something that buyers, especially the savvy buyer out there, is going to welcome this. And maybe the not so savvy buyer, they will have that savvy negotiator who can guide them and show them what this process means to them. I definitely think this is an excellent shift for this market.
Well, if we go back to our Internet Crusade days, Saul, we talked about the paradigm shift. And we talked, and we were looking at the introduction when we worked originally with how MLS has started consolidating, whatever, is that in order to make an informed decision, the realtor is an integral part because they're the boots on the ground. But but now the buyers have changed because there's more information out there. They still need somebody to intervene to do the best jobs with marketing and in engaging with commissions. So in your opinion, this is a learning process. This is a change in the industry that's been around for a long time. I know that Realtina has put together a training platform so that we can learn about this, because it's a shift, and we talk about the shift in real estate. Giselle, do you want to talk a little bit about the training?
I think you are the best people to describe it, but we have we are preparing a training the trainers program, and also training for brokers and agents to get certified, and this will come up very soon. And just wanted to say that from the get-go, just hearing the inverse commission, it may come to mind. I know a lot of questions come into mind. But this is a progression because, there are a lot of different pieces into this. How actually the buyers enter to this platform basically to hire a negotiator, how they select a property, how there's a bidding process that they can, based on the bidding of the negotiators, they can select their negotiator, they can negotiate on the platform with the negotiator on their inverse commission percentage, and then they can sign a contract with them through the platform, and then the negotiators, they can put together an offer and send to the seller, and they can go and visit the property. Probably before that they have visited the property together. There's another role for the buyer agents that we call navigators, that actually that's the phase of showing the properties. And then when a property that the buyers is interested in can go through the negotiation process. The first part being between the buyer and the negotiator, and the second part after they sign a contract goes with putting the offer together and sending it to the seller agent or the seller basically. So this is as you mentioned, this is a long process, and we invite people to join the webinars and soon the training programs. And I'm sure that it's time that really worth looking at another model for doing real estate business.
And Eileen, we both you as a management and as a leader understand that there's going to have to be some integral training to change the mind shift of the agents. And so do you have any suggestions or recommendations for how you approach a buyer or seller?
No, absolutely. And but what I did want to touch on was, we talked about the buyer and empowering the buyer and giving them an option. But I'd like to turn to the agent. So for buyers, agents out there, the first step is understanding the model. And as Giselle, Saul, and Terry and John mentioned, we do have a webinar weekly, which we will conduct, and you'll have an opportunity to ask us questions, and we'll have an opportunity to answer it. But understanding the model is the first part. Then if you decide as an agent that you would like to become a negotiator, there is a process for that. So there will be training for that. And then you will become a certified negotiator. And then you will be on this platform where buyers can seek you out. And then for trainers that are out there that would like to train, agents in their office, their company, and that, we will also provide a train the trainer certification. So that is a whole other process as well. So this is something that's coming. But in the meantime, I would say join our webinar weekly so that you can ask some more questions. And I know Giselle reached out to see if any of our panelists or if any of our attendees have any questions.
And while she's responding, and John, I know that there's going to be a legal contractual piece to this. Do you want to update us on anything that's coming down the pike?
Well, we have to prepare a meaningful, easy to understand contracts that explain the model, but also talk about how buyer agency works. We have a great respect for certified professional buyer agents, and so a lot of our material is there to assist them, and we're preparing now the information for the contracts. Also on the website, you will see that there is a list of the curriculum that is planned for the various navigators and negotiators, and all that is being worked out now. Also on the website, you'll see that there's frequently asked questions, which we'll be addressing and expanding upon. So there'll be a lot of information before we're actually launching the certification program. And so I encourage any viewers to take a look at parisparadigm.com, take a look at the videos, and take a look at the frequently asked questions. And many of those questions we'll be covering in these weekly seminars.
Yep, they'll be every Tuesday. And Judy had a question. And I know you just opened the mic for her, Giselle. Judy said the video spoke about the inspection. How is this related to the commission amount? Who would like to answer that? Giselle, you're muted.
I just opened her mic so she can ask the question again because I didn't see her question.
Okay, Judy, are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
And I watched the video, and so if I have a client I'm negotiating, the video points out inspection, which created the question, how's that related to a commission? And so if I have a client that negotiates and we get $30,000 for a roof because they need $30,000 for a roof, how does the agent take a commission piece of that?
So I'll just touch on that, Judy. And that is one of the aspects of what savings you can bring to a buyer when they're purchasing a home. So that will all become the way the model is set up now. A buyer's representative knows what they're getting paid at the end of the transaction or at the closing table. With this new model, any savings throughout the process can be incorporated in. And just keep in mind that, compensation is negotiable. It is negotiable throughout the whole process. So this is something that can be negotiated individually and through the process. But the ultimate compensation paid to a buyer's agent can be calculated at the end of the transaction at the closing table and what savings a buyer's agent was able to secure for their buyer.
Yeah, just adding to that, just for clarification, another name for inverse commission is commission on the gap. And the gap is it's a more complex concept that we cannot cover right now, but actually it's can be a part of general fixes, savings, and what was the other one? Eileen, I don't remember. So the general fixes is a part of the gap, and the negotiations for bringing down the cost, or if you find any other issues in the property. So all of that will be calculated as the gap created or the savings created for the buyer. So the buyer agents in the beginning, when they bid, as a negotiator, they can say that I want to be compensated at 50% inverse commission, meaning 50% commission on the gap. So if I can save you, for example, $30,000, my commission would be 50% of that amount, which is $15K in this particular case.
So it's not commission on the savings based on the inspection. What it is being able to negotiate a lower price than the buyer expects to pay. And one of the ways that you're able to negotiate a lower price is because you did an inspection and you were able to get concessions on the part of the seller because of the inspection, because of things you did, because of your negotiating skills. And so the inspection is a mechanism to allow you to get the seller to accept a lower offer, where you, the agent representing the buyer, then are compensated a percentage of the difference between what the buyer is willing to pay and what you can buy it for them for. So if the buyer looks at everything and says, this property that's listed for a particular price, but I think I'd pay $100,000 for it. And then the agent says, well, I can get it for you for $90,000. Then the gap is $10,000. And so whatever you have to do as the agent, you do to be able to negotiate less than the $100,000. And then you've also negotiated that based on that savings, you're going to be entitled to a percentage of that from, from 1 to 99%. And so those things that you as an agent can do to reduce the price to the buyer, that the buyer themselves establish. And again, you have a technology that allows you to do this, and it's more complicated than we had initially talked, than we have time to talk about here. But that's a major piece. It's calculating this thing called the gap, and then being rewarded a percentage of the gap. And how do you do that? One way to get the seller to accept a lower price is because you're just a dynamite inspector, right? Or when you walk through with the inspector, you find things nobody else finds, or you know the neighborhood better than anybody else, or lots of things that you can bring to the table that will help in the negotiation to get a lower price. And then you're compensated based on the quote savings that you bring to the buyer. Is that kind of accurate?
Yeah, and it works both in the seller market and a buyer market. So it doesn't it's not related to the list price. You can in a seller market, buyers, they already know that they have to send a higher offer. So this gap can be even above the sell price, listing price basically, and still the agent or the negotiator gets their commission. It
might actually be easier if you think about it in a seller's market, because buyers are willing to pay more than the listed price. And so if the buyer sets a limit on what they're willing to pay in a seller's market, and then you say, okay, I'm going to get you less. I'm going to do everything I can to get it for you for less than that. And then you're compensated on the gap.
So it's clear that there's lots of new exploratory ways to look at this. And I think, Giselle, you did a great job on that. And there's more questions to come. And if you go to parisparadigm.com, there is a whole area there where you can learn more and get some of your questions answered, because it's a process and it's a new process. And that's always a good thing, because everybody wins when we all do our best and we advance our skill set. So I want to thank the panel for being here. We'll be here every Tuesday at 11 o'clock Central, 12 o'clock Eastern, to bring you some nuance. We've got inverse commission, we've got the Navigator, we've got training, we've got lots of ways for you to be the best realtor in your marketplace. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Join us again next week. I'm Terry Murphy signing off for the group.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Bye-bye. Bye.